Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome for today's session. My name is Paras Fatnani. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer and co-founder at Seed Global Education. Today's session is in partnership with Schulich School of Business. We're going to talk about careers in finance in North America's second largest financial center. But as we get started, we'll wait for a couple of minutes for folks to join in. There's nearly 100 of you here already, which is great to see. For the folks that are here, in the meantime, before we start, if you can just post on the chat function at the bottom of your screen, which city are you joining in from? Just post on the chat function which city you're coming in from, just so we understand a little bit about you and where you're joining from today. Lovely to have you here, Aditya from Mumbai. Folks are joining from Pune, from Accra, from Kolkata in India. Wonderful. Delhi, quite a widespread. Ghana again. Lovely to have you all here. Fantastic. Delhi again as well. Great. Lovely to see you all. Today's session will cover about the Masters in Finance at Schulich as well as the MBA. But more importantly, we'll dive deeper into what career opportunities and what the career for the Center for Career Design can do for you to build a successful career in finance in North America's second largest financial center. We'll give it another minute or so for folks to join in before we get started. Great to see folks here from Karnataka as well. Several folks from Ghana. Glad to have you all here. Thank you for joining. Over the course of the next hour, we learn about Schulich's Center for Career Design. We learn about different programs like the Masters in Finance and the MBA program at Schulich as well. We'll talk about scholarships as well that you will all have access to by the virtue of joining this event. So I think that's another great benefit of being here today. We've got someone joining in from Singapore, someone from Nigeria. Welcome everybody. It's a pleasure to have you all here. We're about 110 odd people now. We'll wait for just another minute before we get going. Great to see you all here. Couple of house rules before we get started. If you have any questions about the topic that the speakers will talk on, you're more than welcome to put the question in the Q&A section. If there is something that the speakers are speaking about that you want to respond to, if they've asked a question, you can use the chat functionality at the bottom of your screen. So if you have a question as someone who's attending today's session, you can post the question on the Q&A section. If you want to respond to anything the speaker is asking, you can post in the chat section at that point. We've got folks from Pakistan today as well. Lovely to see someone joining in from Pakistan too. Great. So let me get started just with some introductions while we wait for the others to join in. Today we'll talk about discovering unparalleled opportunities to kickstart your career in finance in Canada through Schulich's Masters of Finance and MBA with a finance specialization. We'll also learn about the career for the Center for Career Design and learn more about what services and support opportunities does the center provide as well. With the speakers, I've got a couple of great folks here. We've got Hollis Sinker, who's the Executive Director for the Center of Career Design. Her and her team have helped several students at Schulich understand the skill sets required by corporates today needed for career success, as well as develop and creating strong relationships with key Schulich stakeholders and the employer community. She also partners with major service units within the school to deepen career and industry learning and fostering strong connections between alumni, students at different stages of their careers too. So welcome, Hollis. Thank you for making the time for being here with us today. We also have Yusuf Jiruwala, who's a corporate banking associate at HSBC Canada, who's also a graduate from Schulich's Masters of Finance from the 2022 batch. We'll learn more about Yusuf in a few minutes once we learn about their experience as well. Along with Yusuf, we've also got John Cameron, who's the former manager of equity capital markets and corporate solutions at Sustainalytics, who's also a Schulich 2021 MBA alumnus as well. So thank you all for being here. And last but not least, we've also got Susan Callahan, who is the admissions manager from Schulich's Masters of Finance program. So she will talk to us a little bit more about the program as well in due time. Without further ado, firstly, we'll put up a quick poll on your screen. You should see a poll come up in just a second. Hopefully that's on your screen now. So what aspects of career services are most important to you when considering business school? Is it networking opportunities that you may get access to? Is it personalized career guidance? Is it training programs? Is it access to job boards and recruitment events? Or is it all of the above? You can choose what is most important to you while choosing a business school in terms of career services support. Is it the networking opportunities that the schools offer? Is it the personalized career guidance that you may get access to? Is it the training programs that schools have opportunities for? Is it access to the job board and recruitment events? Or is it all of the above that you feel is important while choosing the business school? We'll keep the poll on for another 30 seconds. So there's over 50% of you that have already answered. Take a quick second to respond to this. What aspect of the career services team are most important, or what aspect of career services are most important to you when considering business school? Is it networking opportunities? Is it personalized career guidance? Is it training programs? Is it access to job boards and recruitment events? Or is it all of the above? All right, we're going to close the poll in just 10 seconds. Wonderful, quite a few responses coming through. Lovely. I will close the poll, and now you can see the results on screen. 73% of you said all of the above. In a market like today, I can understand the importance of that. 10% of you gave importance to networking opportunities. 9% of you spoke about the job board and recruitment events. 4% each chose personalized career guidance and training programs as well. So great. With that sort of background, I'm going to hand over to Hollis to start. But before I do that, just one more time for the folks that have joined in recently. If you have any questions for Hollis or Susan, or once we start the panel discussion, please post those questions in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. If the panelists are asking something that you're trying to respond to, use the chat functionality at the bottom of your screen for that. And with that, Hollis, over to you, and your stage for the next 15 minutes.
Great. Thank you so much, Paris. Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today and joining in this conversation. So as was mentioned, my name is Hollis Sinker, and I am the Executive Director at the Center for Career Design at Schulich. So a little bit about our unit. As is indicated by the name of the unit, Center for Career Design, we effectively handle all things career related throughout your journey at Schulich. And we take a life design or a design thinking approach to the ways in which we work with students on their career journeys. So we're not just kind of the one-stop shop near the end of your program where you show up, a couple months before graduation and say, all right, I'm ready to look for a job. Here we go. Rather, we want to work with you, and we do work with students throughout their entire program, right from the point in time that they are admitted to their program and start onboarding to the school, throughout the on-campus recruiting season, throughout offer negotiations. So we walk beside you for the complete career journey, and we really want to empathize with students and meet them where they're at in their own personal career development. So certainly there's some folks that come into our program and they are laser focused. They know maybe a particular job or company that they really want to pursue upon completion of their program, and they do everything in their power to get there. And of course, we're there to support them. And then we have folks on the other end of the spectrum that come in a bit more of an exploratory mindset. Perhaps they're considering an industry switch or a career switch. They're looking at several different types of functional roles. We will help students sort of winnow that down and really help them identify a pathway and some steps to ultimately achieve their personal and professional goals. So within the Center for Career Design, there's effectively 2 units. So we have the Career Advising and Design unit, and we have the Corporate Relations unit. So with our team on the Career Advising and Design side, those are the individuals that students can book time to speak with throughout their program journeys. They can sit down for one-to-one advising appointments, which can be anything from, a simple resume review, mock interview session, all the way to far more exploratory conversations regarding what a student's really looking for and what some options might be for them as they pursue that particular career path. It is also the career advising and design team that facilitate the vast majority of the workshops and networking events that we host for students throughout the year. So I believe there's going to be a panel question on this later, so I won't tease too much about it, but we do provide a wide series of workshops and events designed to really help students develop their soft skills. So they are all professional development workshops that students can take, again, picking and choosing based on the areas that they feel they may need to grow their strengths. But these workshops cover things like interview best practices, effective networking, how to set up a meaningful LinkedIn profile. So we do offer a whole host of activities on the career advising side to help ensure that all of our students are getting the support that they need and want as they work their way through the programs. And when you join the Schulich School of Business, one of the first things that you're going to hear from the Schulich Center for Career Design is we're going to ask you a series of questions through an intake survey so we can get to know a little bit more about you, about your career history, and about your career aspirations. What we do with that information is we will then cohort like-minded students together and assign them to a particular industry advisor so that students have a go-to individual right from day one within the Center for Career Design. So we do try and work on a bit of a student cohorting basis so that students have their go-to person within our center and they can start developing that relationship from day one. That's not to say that you can't meet with multiple advisors in the unit, but we find that it is very helpful for students to sort of be packaged up early on in their program to start building out those relationships. So that's a very little bit about the advising side of the business. And then, of course, we have our corporate relations team. So corporate relations in the Center for Career Design is pretty much exactly what you would assume it to be. It's a team of individuals who maintain the relationships and the partnerships that we have with a vast variety of organizations that regularly come on campus to recruit Schulich students. So many of these organizations have formal campus recruitment departments, which means they recruit students at particular times of year for jobs that are set to begin upon a student's graduation. So the corporate relations team will work with those folks to do information sessions, to host industry or function specific career fairs. So students get the opportunity to meet with a variety of organizations at one time. But then as well, our corporate relations team does also support just-in-time recruitment. So certainly not all organizations are large enough that they're able to have a specific campus recruitment team that's hiring students, 6 or 8 months out from graduation. So our corporate relations team is also always working to ensure that we are bringing forward just-in-time opportunities for smaller and mid-sized firms that our students can look to pursue. So whether it is formal on-campus recruiting or more of these sort of just-in-time opportunities, our corporate relations team It has a hand in either facilitating or bringing to the forefront of students' calendars over 300 events a year, well over 400 actually, so more than an event a day. So there's no shortage, of ways in which students are able to engage with industry via our corporate relations team. So between the advising side and the CR side, that is what makes up the Center for Career Design at Schulich. All told, we're a team of about 15, 16 individuals. And as I say, we really want to be a program-long partner with students as they move through their program. So it's not just about ultimately, coming to us at the 11th hour and saying, okay, I need help finding a job now. Really, we want you to engage with us early on in your program so that we can build a relationship, really get to know and understand you, and help you round out some of the areas that might be areas of growth for you so that you are well positioned to earn those roles when you start to interview. And that's really what it's all about, right? Schulich is a fantastic program. I think that goes without saying. But gone are the days where simply going to a fantastic program writes your ticket on the career side. You need to make sure that you are appropriately developed in the soft skills department, all of those professional development pieces, so that at the end of the day, when an organization has two candidates that are technically both sound and could both do the work, it's the Schulich student that's standing, head and shoulders above the rest based on their ability to carry on a conversation, to ask intelligent questions, and really just to be that person that at the end of the day, the hiring manager wants to work with. So I think I'll stop there because we're going to get into a lot more when we get into the panel discussion, but that's a little bit about the CCD. Again, I'm Hollis, and I'll be happy to take any questions later on in the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Hollis. That was a great overview of the program at the Center for Career Design. Next up, we're going to hear a little bit about the Masters in Finance and the MBA program from Susan. For folks that are joining in now, we're nearly 300 of you here. Once again, welcome to this session today. My name is Paras Fatnani. I'm the co-founder and chief strategy officer at Seed Global Education. Today's session is in partnership with the Schulich School of Business. And next up, we're going to hear from Susan, following which we're going to have a panel discussion with two great alums who've joined us today. So if you have any questions for them about their experience or how they've got into the right jobs, please use the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. If you see a question that has already been asked, which is similar to what you would like to know, please upvote the question rather than asking the same question again. But if you have something unique, please feel free to add there as well. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Susan. Susan, over to you next.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Paris. Hi, everybody. I'm Susan Callahan, Assistant Director, Recruitment and Admissions for a number of the master's programs at Schulich, and it's my pleasure to be here with you today. So this is a view of actually the Schulich buildings. So we have a building specifically designed for our graduate students, our master's students at Schulich, and it's a fantastic place to study. So the Master of Finance program is a one-year master's program. It is an excellent way to really start to build your career in finance. It focuses on content from, for example, from the CFA curriculum. We are a CFA partner school, and we are also a partner school with the Risk Management Association. So excellent building block for your career in finance. The curriculum highlights econometrics of financial markets, institutional wealth management, options, futures, and derivative securities, as well as ethical decision-making for financial professionals. There are two streams in the Master of Finance program. So there's a common first term, and then students can go into either the capital markets stream, which is a very popular stream with us, or they can go into the risk management stream. So And there are lots of, obviously, as Hollis mentioned, there's lots of fabulous networking opportunities through the Career Center. The Master of Finance program also has a number of networking opportunities through its professional speaker series, where industry professionals come and share their expertise with the class. There are also research seminar series. So again, you're hearing from professionals about the finance industry. The Master of Business or Education Administration, otherwise known as the MBA. I'm used to acronyms in higher education. So, and the MBA is a very popular program. It provides a general business education. And the great thing about doing an MBA at Schulich is the option to specialize. So we have 17 specializations in the MBA program at Schulich, one of which is finance. So you'll hear from John later on about his experience in the MBA program and about the world of finance. So again, if you're looking to build a broad business education with a focus on finance, the MBA might be an option for you. A bit about admission requirements. So you can see I've just tried to lay out the admission requirements here. For admission to a graduate program at Schulich, we are looking for a certain level of previous education. Generally, we're looking for the equivalent of a 4-year undergrad degree. I understand that some countries don't have 4-year undergrad degrees, so in those cases, we tend to look for a 3-year undergrad degree plus 1 year of work experience. For the undergrad degree, we look at your most recent, or if you've completed a master's degree, then we'll start counting back to get your GPA from the most recently completed education. So if you've done a master's, we'll start at your master's and count back to get the equivalent of 2 years. From there, we calculate your GPA. For the Master of Finance program, otherwise known as the MF program, we're looking for a B+. For the MBA, we're looking for a B. Prerequisite courses are sometimes a part of our admission requirements for programs. In the case of the Master of Finance, we look for a really strong quantitative background. So courses in calculus, linear algebra, statistics are examples of quantitative courses. And we look for these to make sure that you've got the educational background to be successful in the program. We want you to succeed, and we've got lots of resources to help you along the way, but we want to make sure that you've got a strong background before entering the program. For the MBA program, there are actually no prerequisite course requirements. Everybody asks about the GMAT. Is the GMAT required? The GMAT or the GRE is a requirement for these programs. For the Master of Finance, it is required. However, if you've completed the CFA level 1, so if you're looking into finance, you've probably heard about the CFA. It's an international organization that certifies financial professionals, and there are 3 exam levels and an experience requirement. So to get a GMAT waiver, if you have the CFA level 1 or the risk management level 1 exam, that's a waiver for the GMAT or GRE requirement. We also, as also a waiver for the GMAT, we'll take a look at your transcripts and see if you've got strong quantitative courses in your background, educational background, and those could be a waiver as well. For the MBA, we do require a GMAT, and for the MBA. During your application, it's all online. There are 2 written, 2 video, and 1 timed essay. Similar to every other educational institution, we look for references. And sorry, I just realized the work experience is not required for the MF, but it is required for the MBA. Unfortunately, things got reversed. It is a minimum of 2 years of work experience required for the MBA program. And language proficiency, we do require, if you have not completed 2 years of education in English, we do require an English language proficiency score. And Paris mentioned awards at the top of the presentation. There are some awards associated with attending SEED events and applying to the MBA or the Master of Finance program. You can find all of this information on the SEED website, but I just wanted to share with you that there are some awards available. And then I'm just going to pass it back to Paris. And I know there were some questions coming in about requirements and that, and I'm happy to answer those when we get into the panel.
Fantastic. Thank you, Susan, for that. I've been monitoring the questions that are coming in. Thank you for all of you that have posted some there already. Some fabulous questions, and we'll try and answer as many as we can through the course of today's session. But next up, we're going to dive deep into the experiences that Yusuf and John have had of studying in Schulich. But before that, Schulich, Yusuf, if you want to quickly introduce yourself, and then following that, John, if you want to do that as well. Yusuf, first over to you.
Good morning, everybody. It's nice to see such a big crowd. So I graduated my MFin course in 2022, and for the past 1.5 years, I'm working in HSBC in their corporate banking team. And happy to take any answers and give you more about my experience.
Great. Thank you, Yusuf. John?
Yeah, thanks. Good morning, everybody. I graduated from the MBA program at Schulich in 2021 with a specialization in finance and business and sustainability. For the last couple of years, I've been in finance, worked as a commercial lender at TD Bank, was in ESG strategy at TD as well, and more recently was at Morningstar Sustainalytics, connecting corporate issuers with services related to ESG data and analytics. Happy to talk further and answer any questions.
Great. John, Yusuf, if you guys wouldn't mind just keeping the mic closer when you speak next, that'd be super helpful. Hollis, we'll start the first question with you. We heard from you about the center already, but what do you think sets Schulich apart from other business schools in terms of student support and career services that you offer?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things. One of them that I did mention right off the bat is really the notion that we develop a program-long partnership with our students, and we really want to meet them where they're at. So we are not of the mind in the Center for Career Design that everybody is coming in at the same place in terms of their professional development or their career readiness. And so we really want to treat all of our students as individuals and work with them through a design thinking process, a really iterative process to understand what their options are, understand what they might wish to pursue, and then help them sort of prototype a variety of different ways that they can go about gaining those experiences to help them build the skills that they need and the connections and the networks that they need to ultimately achieve the professional success that they're looking for. As well, something I think that really does set us apart is some of the relationships that we in the Center for Career Design hold with other ancillary departments. So specifically, the relationship that the CCD has with Susan's department, Student Services and International Relations, is very, very strong. And so that allows us to co-design workshops and offerings for students for particular student groups. So for example, within Student Services and International Relations, there is of course the International Relations team offering a variety of international student supports. And we will often work with them to put forward workshops or offerings that speak to, being workforce ready in the Canadian context as someone that is new to the country, right? We know that there are different norms in terms of workplace behavior, in terms of how you effectively network, depending on where in the world that you're from. And so we will work closely with our colleagues in international relations to develop programming around things like that. And then one other thing that I want to mention is at Schulich, we also have a division that is a professional development and experiential education office. So it exists outside of the Center for Career Design, but our work is very linked and very close. And the professional development office does offer a 4-credit professional development course. So while everything through the CCD is, of course, voluntary and at the student's discretion to pursue, we obviously strongly hope that students do choose to take us up on all of the various professional development opportunities that we present. This PD course, it's available as an MBA elective, and it is also slowly being worked into the curriculum of a variety of our programs as a core course. And effectively, it's a 4-credit course that covers a lot of the things that we do in the CCD. So, your resume and cover letter basics, effective networking, working on your communication skills. So I do think that is something that that sets our school apart on the career and professional development side from other business schools.
Great. No, thank you. That was quite holistic in its nature as well. John, I'll move to you for my next question. And your experience is quite interesting, which is where my question comes from. Can you share a specific example of how you've integrated sustainability challenges with financial analysis and decision making in your previous roles?
For sure, I'd be happy to touch on that. So I think that's most relevant probably for my time actually as a mid-market lender at TD Commercial Banking, where we're making investment decisions.
Sorry, John, if you can bring the mic closer, please.
Yeah, so I think that's probably most relevant for my time at TD Commercial Banking. And there, the environmental social risk due diligence process really involved around looking at land contamination, looking at social reputational risks that might be associated with a business that we're providing capital to. In the mid-market, it's a little bit more of a challenge field for ESG integration, but it is seeing more push and pull in the institutional investment community, corporate banking community. Would be curious actually if Yusuf has any experience in that area with doing E&S due diligence. I see him shaking his head, or nodding his head, so he probably does. But yeah, so that's my personal experience with it. I do know that there are a variety of strategies in equity markets and in debt markets to integrate ESG factors into the process.
Great. No, thank you. And the reason I asked that question is also because there's so much interest growing around sustainability for folks that want to build careers within that segment, but either want to pursue finance to have a more solid understanding of the space as well. Yusuf, I'll come to you next. Looking at your background, I understand that you were also the cohort representative at the Graduate Business Council. Talk to us how that was like and what was your favorite moments at that time?
So to give a little bit of context, GBC is a student union who works as a bridge between all the students and the faculty and administration. But what it actually does, or what the main role is, to organize different events, from fun social parties to competitions to networking events. So to become a representative, you have to solicit votes from your classmates. So the person who gets the highest votes in the class wins or becomes the rep. So the work of the rep is to promote events from the GBC Council and other clubs, and also to take care of any academic or admin issues with any of my classmates, or just to promote those type of issues. So as for my personal development, it is a good icebreaker to talk to different people in your class very early on, so that you can solicit votes. I got to know a bunch of people in my class and also try to understand what jobs they are looking at, what strategies they are looking at, and so on. Groups and assignments are a huge part of your learning. And if you know the strengths and interest of each person very early on, it can help you build those groups for your different courses in your course. So in summary, I highly recommend being part of any such groups or any such position, because it provides you a good discussion point in your interviews and your coffee chats. You are at Schulich, right? So like everybody is smart, everybody has good grades. So you need to differentiate yourself with something like this.
Great. That was very well put. Susan, I'll bring you the next question at this stage. There's a lot of students or candidates that have asked about this. If they come from a non-traditional background, which is not a business background, so to say, what is the opportunity that they have when they think about a master's in finance or the MBA program? Is that a disadvantage of any kind? If you want to touch on that.
Yeah, thanks for the question. It's a great question. So I think, especially with the MBA, having a diverse background from other people in your class is really a benefit. Because one great thing about Schulich is that people come from different experiences, different educational backgrounds, different work experiences, and that really adds value in the classroom and when you're networking with individuals and when you're doing case competitions, for example, to bring that diverse experience into the classroom. So when we look at candidates' applications, we look holistically at the application. So we're not just looking to see, if you've got a background in finance or you've worked, in a business environment. We're looking to see what your whole experience is. What's your whole education experience, work experience, and then have you done those extracurricular or volunteer activities that really show you as a well-rounded candidate? So short answer, no, it's not a disadvantage. I would just say with the Master of Finance, we do look for some quantitative experience in your educational background. So that would be something that we definitely look for there. But again, we take a look at the whole picture.
Great. Thank you, Susan. And the folks that are posting questions, we're going to try and take as many as we can over the next few minutes. But please look at the questions that are posted already too. If you think that your question is similar to the one that has been asked, please upvote that question so we make sure that we ask those most certainly. Hollis, I'll bring you the next question at this stage. Can you share some insights into the Career Foundation series and how it empowers students with essential skills like career planning, resume writing, or interview preparation as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do every term offer a version of what has been noted as the Career Foundation series. And so this is a series of voluntary workshops for students that effectively provides students with those baseline skills necessary to be successful in their job hunt and their interviews. So as Paris mentioned, everything from resume writing, building out your LinkedIn profile. We do a really experiential session with a guest speaker on effective networking and the power of effective networking. So how you network and engage in those more casual conversations in a North American context. Effectively, students can pick and choose which of these sessions they would like to take part in, depending on where perhaps they feel their skills could use some development, or certainly students are welcome to take part in all of them. Generally, these all also do happen in person, so it's an excellent opportunity to meet some of your other colleagues in the program. But yes, these are effectively foundational sessions that students can take part in to make sure that they're brushing up on some of those professional development basics. And then, through the CCD, we do offer a variety of other workshops, sort of the 2.0 versions of these for those students that perhaps are feeling that, they've mastered the basics and they'd like a little bit more challenge in terms of their professional development. But yeah, that's the Foundation series in a nutshell.
That's great. That's great. Thank you for that. Yusuf, I'll come to you with the next question. And this is slightly more specific. Can you tell us how did the Masters of Finance at Schulich help you with the right skills to get a role at HSBC Canada?
So let me elaborate my role at HSBC. So I'm doing corporate banking and my team focuses on mid-market clients in Ontario. So my responsibility includes credit analysis, credit risk management, and relationship management. So for credit analysis, you have to assess the creditworthiness of the clients. This helps you to effectively structure the deal and ascertain what pricing you are going to take. Credit risk management is more of a housekeeping task for your accounts and your transactions. And relationship management is basically to undergo origination and to find new opportunities in your existing portfolio of clients. Now, how MPIN helps you is that it gives you an in-depth focus on all the different subsectors of finance. So you know what different products the bank sells, and you also get an understanding of how different parts of the bank work with each other. In the last or second last semester, you get to learn CFA, Corporate Financial Analysis, from one of the great professors, Greg. So he teaches you how to read between the lines in a financial statement. This gives you a very good head start in your job. And lastly, the focus on group assignments or group projects that really helps you how to work with people from different cultures, different skills, and which is very relevant in your workspace.
Great. Thank you, Yusuf. John, I'll come to you next. Similarly, talk to us a little bit about how the Schulich MBA prepared you for your work in the equity capital markets and corporate solutions at your last role as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I would say that I am one of those Schulich students. I went through the MBA program, did not have a traditional finance background, did not even have a business background. I come from the world of politics. I worked on in Capitol Hill down in Washington, D.C., and did a international relations undergrad. So the folks that are looking to do similar transitions, I would say that the MBA prepares you well for everything you can expect, not only in business but specifically in finance, because I took that specialization in finance. And those courses that Yusuf mentioned, corporate financial analysis, with and some other courses, but particularly with Gregory Powell, really helped prepare me for the rigors of financial analysis that would be required for my roles, mainly in commercial lending. My role was very similar to what Yusuf is describing, but for the mid-market, so a little bit smaller loan sizes. But it helped me understand what to look at to assess risk, what to talk about with my clients, to suss out opportunities, to uncover potential risks to the bank. It prepared me for what the bank was offering to them as well, and just help me basically speak the language of finance to better prepare myself for conversations in interviews, for conversations in networking meetings, give me an understanding of what specifically within the industry I would want to look at. Because I guess if I have one piece of general advice for folks coming into an MBA, specifically because or even an MFin, it would be just to do some due diligence on the industry you want to get into, do some due diligence on finance. If it's finance and sustainability, figure out what area of finance, what area of sustainability you want to get involved in, because then you can really tailor your networking. You can tailor your core skills so you can focus on, say, personal banking or investment banking or, relationship management, institutional investing. It's a very varied world. And so having some understanding of that before and when you get into the program would be a huge asset for you in either the MFin or the MBA.
Thank you, John. Thank you for that. Hollis, I'll bring you the next question. There's quite a few questions pouring in still. So for the ones that are attending, please feel free to keep posting. We're going to move on to those questions pretty quickly. Hollis, a little bit of a rapid fire. I'll give you 2 questions here in this round. The first one's probably quite straightforward. Hamza asks, will the career design team stay connected after the course completion as well?
Yeah, so we do offer services to alumni who are roughly up to about a year out from their program. So generally, if folks want to reach back for assistance, we will provide some. But certainly in terms of connection overall, we absolutely want to stay connected with students on their journeys. And you will hear from us, 2, 3, 4 years out from your program. We want to know what you're doing. Oftentimes we'll reach out for survey to completion, to see how you've progressed in your role. So we definitely want to build those relationships while you're in the program and keep them going upon graduation.
Fantastic. I'll give you the second question here as well. What advice would you give students considering Schulich as their choice for the master's or the MBA program?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. And I think, outside of choosing a school with an excellent career center, which you would get at Schulich, really, whether you're pursuing the MBA or you're pursuing the Masters of Finance, it is a big investment financially. It is a big investment of your time. And so you really want to make sure that as you're considering schools, you're speaking to various team members throughout the school. So be it someone like myself, someone like Susan or her team, but as well connecting with current students and connecting with recent alum to hear about their experiences and to get a sense of whether or not there's an alignment of values, right? Different business schools have sort of different cultures overall, and you want to make sure that you're landing at a school that's a good cultural fit for you. I would say Schulich definitely has a very collaborative culture to it, regardless of the program that you're in. There's definitely competition in the school, but it's a healthy sense of competition. But by and large, I would classify us as a very collaborative program, and obviously a program that, regardless of the course that you're taking, has sustainability at the top of mind. So really, if the notion of the triple bottom line, people, planet, and profit is something that resonates with you, Schulich is likely going to be a good fit. But yeah, just do your research, have those conversations, and you'll find, if you reach out to someone and to ask about their experiences, they're generally, Schulich alum are great. They're generally very happy to chat.
Fantastic. And Hollis, I'll give you a question I don't know if you have this data to hand, but just if we can come back to you in a few minutes, what is the average pay of graduates coming out of the Masters of Finance program? There's a question from one of the folks attending. So if you have that figure, we can take it now, or we can come back to you in a couple of minutes as well.
Yeah, come back. I'll pull the most recent figure.
Perfect. Susan, I'll come to you next. Similarly, I'll give you 2 or 3 questions of a similar domain that we'd like to cover. There's a lot of questions around the CFA and either the affiliation or if someone's pursued it. So let me break those down. First, if you want to answer, are the finance courses at Schulich affiliated with the CFA? Answer is yes. Go ahead. You're on mute, sorry.
Yes, sorry. Finding that mute button quickly. Yes.
Okay, lovely. Second one, which comes from Jugal. What if I've done my CFA level 2? Should I offer a master's in finance or should I offer an MBA?
That's a great question. And it's something, to Hollis's point, is you need to really take a look at what the programs offer and what you're looking for, and talk to alumni, talk to people on our team, on the recruitment and admissions team. There's lots of events that go on to get a better understanding of what the programs offer and what the best fit for you is.
Okay, great. And I know you spoke about this a bit briefly earlier as well, but there are a couple of questions about the 15-year of education. Does Schulich accept that, or do you need the 16th year? Do you want to quickly brace on that as well, please?
So I'm confused by the 15 years of education. So is that somebody who's got
let me clarify. The idea here is, and to what you said earlier, there are graduates with 3-year undergraduate degrees versus the traditional 4-year in the US. A lot of other countries have the 3-year undergraduate. So if folks are coming out of the 3-year, are they eligible for the specialized master's programs at Schulich?
Right. So if you have a 3-year degree, we look for 1-year postgraduate work experience to go with that degree. And we will consider internships. So we do have some flexibility around that, but generally, if you have a 3-year degree, we look for the 1-year work experience.
Fantastic. And one thing I'll come back to in a few minutes, Susan, is around the GMAT score. There's a couple of questions around that. So again, we'll bucket them together and come back to you on that as well. Yusuf, coming back to you at this stage, talk to us a little bit about, what are some of the skills and qualities that employers in the finance industry are currently seeking, given the role that you've got at HSBC and you're managing a team as well, I understand. What are some of the skills that employers are looking at? How does Schulich help cultivate these attributes as well?
So for the skills and qualities, it would be changing for any subsectors. Like IB would be very different from ER. Audit would be very different from sales and trading. But what like the overall trend I see is that there is a lot of focus on tech. So learning Python or VBA would be very helpful. In capital markets or in like core finance jobs, you have to work on very tight deadlines. And also, like if it is front office, you have to be very presentable. So like as far as Schulich is concerned, you will have to do a lot of assignments, group projects, studying for the exams, and above and beyond that, you have to also attend networking and competitions. So this will teach you how to multitask, how to prioritize, and how to give quality work on in tight deadlines. In terms of my role, like one thing which really helped me was the Marquee training. So Marquee is an institute which gives Excel training, which is a very well-known institute in downtown Toronto. So my hiring manager knew about it, so it really helped me with the interview.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's super useful. Thank you for that. And John, coming to you, you spoke about sustainability, ESG. What advice would you give folks that are looking to transition into roles that focus on these segments within the finance industry?
For sure. So I guess the first thing I would say that is the sector has come under a lot of scrutiny after pretty explosive growth over the last 3 years in Canada and in the US. So that's definitely had an impact on opportunities and the types of skills that I think are being sought after by employers. So I would reiterate my first comment there about figuring out what area of sustainability you want to get into, because I think the areas that are being hired for at the moment are the areas of sustainability that are actually creating tangible value in terms of mitigating against climate change or reducing carbon emissions, reducing environmental impact, that sort of thing, or are being tasked with risk and compliance. So that really means that tech-focused roles, due diligence for an investment manager or institutional investor, like having an engineering background would be helpful for that, or getting those skills through some other means would be helpful. In addition, I think spending your time in roles or pursuing roles that would be adjacent to finance or to sustainability, such as working for a large institutional investor that might have some sort of sustainability focus, like university pension plan is one off the top of my head. In Toronto, that's very large. The pension funds are actually very large in Canada, and they've had significant play in this sector. So I would recommend checking that out if you were interested in pursuing that intersection of finance and sustainability. But the other big piece that's not going to go away because it is being regulated and required is around reporting and financial and accounting, and doing your homework on the compliance side, because in Canada and the US, everywhere, regulators are starting to require more investment in better quality of information coming to market. And so pursuing skills in those areas would be helpful as well.
Great. Thank you, John, for that. Hollis, coming back to you, figures. Let's talk about some of the salaries for Masters in Finance graduates.
Yeah, so if we look, excuse me, at our most recent graduating class, the average starting salary for that group is about 87,000, and we have about 86% of our students hired within 6 months of graduation. And so those folks are going to, a variety of key firms off the top of my head, Manulife, TD, HSBC, National Bank, CI Financial. We have a partnership with them. And they're landing in roles like investment portfolio analysts, audit managers, obviously financial analysts, risk managers. So really quite vast and varied. And again, that is the average salary. So certainly we have folks that are landing salaries that are higher than that. But that's roughly where our class of 2022 positioned themselves in the market.
Great. Thank you for those numbers, Hollis. Susan, coming back to you, and I think there's a host of questions that probably are for you next. So apologies to the rest, but I'll come back to you in a few minutes. Susan, firstly, with regards to the GMAT, very briefly, can you explain, one, is it essential? Two, if someone decides to take it, what's a good score according to you? And three, how does the waiver process work?
Sure, all great questions. I think the GMAT is one of the most popular topics for questions. I'll talk about MF first. So we look for a minimum, so yes, it's required for the Master of Finance, but there are certain waiver criteria. So a minimum score would be about 600, a competitive score would be 640. If you have a CFA level 1 or an FRM level 1, you get a waiver for the GMAT GRE. We are going through making some changes to our admission requirements. So if you have high GPA grades in your quantitative courses, so like calculus, linear algebra, probability, statistics, we will look at those. You need at least 2 of those types of courses with at least a B+ equivalent. So you're looking at about a 78 or 79, 78 out of 100 in 2 of those courses for the GMAT waiver. So keep an eye on our website. Possibly if you're looking to start in maybe 2025, we might have a change to the GMAT requirement at that time. MBA, it is a requirement for the MBA. The minimum score is 550. There can be waivers. This is more on a case-by-case basis. So we would look at an application to determine whether or not the educational background and the work experience would warrant a waiver for the GMAT. Does that answer those questions?
Yeah, wonderful. Yes, thank you so much. And I'll take one more with you here, Susan, around funding. And there's a host of other questions as well, but just this one, and before we go to the rest of the folks as well. This is from David from Ghana. He asks, can one have a scholarship and a student loan in parallel while looking at financing their studies as an international student who's not in Canada? I think his question, particularly about not in Canada, relates to the loan aspect. So if you wanna talk about that a little bit.
Yes. So both for the MBA and the Master of Finance program, we do have a pool of funds for international candidates. It's a limited pool, so if you're applying to the program, we always encourage candidates to apply early because you have the greatest chance of funding the earlier you apply. If you are coming into either the MBA or the Master of Finance and you qualify for a scholarship, you can have a loan and a scholarship at the same time. Loan programs, there are a couple of providers that a number of our students get loans with as international students coming to study in Canada. 2 of them are Power, that's just a capital M and then Power, and one of them is Prodigy Finance. So those are a couple of the organizations that our students use for loans.
Wonderful. Hollis, I'll come back to you here, and Yusuf, John, bear with us for a few minutes. Hollis, in terms of industries that are the hottest areas for graduates coming out of Schulich, you mentioned some of them within the finance space, but in general, if someone's looking at an MBA, are there particular industries that are doing better at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think if somebody's looking at our MBA program, I mean, obviously the world is a little bit of your oyster because our MBA offers so many different areas. But if we take a look specifically at industry, the majority of our students, so about 20%, or excuse me, 28% of our students are ending up in financial services. But the next highest grouping of students are in sort of that technology and telecom space. Obviously, we're seeing a lot happen on the fintech side. We're seeing a lot happen on the AI side of things. Other popular spaces, of course, are consulting and the various different directions that one can go, whether you're going for sort of a functional specific consulting role. And then when we look specifically to function, A lot of our students are, again, landing in that consulting function, in finance functions in various industries. So I think based on the fact, if we look at our MBA, because there are so many areas of specialization, even if someone is specializing in finance, there's so many different functional or industry ways that specialization can take them. So yeah.
Great. And the follow-on to that, Hollis, and this comes from Benjamin. He says, given the recent immigration news, what is Schulich doing to help international students regarding the cut in the number of immigrants to Canada, especially to Toronto and other high affected areas? Is there something that you can answer to?
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to that question, it's probably more of an admissions question in terms of assisting those students. And also, I think it's worth noting that nothing is set in stone right now regarding what these changes are actually going to mean for our university in particular, or for institutions across Ontario. But what I can say, and what Susan would probably agree with, is if you are an international student and you ultimately do gain admission to Schulich, we have a tremendously strong and dedicated international relations team to help students on all aspects of the move to Canada. So the study permit application, that entire process, and then everything on the back end, which generally for students is the process of getting their PGWP, their post-graduation work permit. So we have a team of 2 international student support specialists who are registered immigration consultants, led by another registered immigration consultant who is also our associate director on the international relations side. So while I don't think that anybody, at least in the province of Ontario right now, can clearly answer that question, because we're still waiting on lots of information from the government, assuming a student, internationally speaking, does gain admission to Schulich, I would go so far as to say that we are probably one of the best in terms of supporting international students through their programmatic journeys.
Fantastic. Thank you, Hollis, for that. Susan, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that was great, and yeah, our international relations team is amazing. One exciting thing that came out of the recent government announcements is the eligibility for a 3-year postgraduate work permit for the 1-year master's programs. So traditionally, those programs could only get a shorter postgraduate work permit, but we're getting more details in a couple of days, but they should be eligible as long as they meet the criteria for the 3-year PGWP.
Okay, lovely. Susan, there's a couple of other admissions related questions which I'll pass on for you. One, the letter of recommendations, can it be anybody, can it be work related, or does it have to be academic as well?
Some of them we do ask for. Some programs, I believe the Master of Finance is one of them. We do ask for one academic reference, and the other one can be either academic or professional. MBA, they're looking more for professional references.
Great. There's a few questions that have come around, folks that are coming from a non-business. So, there's folks who've come from a BE in electronics, someone who's come from a geography background. Their questions are, and I'll quickly summarize this, we're not going to take this as a question. The questions are around if they will be relevant to apply for an MBA program. For all of you that have asked questions around the industry background that you come from, I think John's a great example, who came from a politics background, has pursued an MBA, has built a career in finance. So the probability is definitely there. I would say just a lot depends on you and how you craft yourself and your profile as you go through that process, working with the school hand in hand as well. Susan, a couple of questions around scholarships. Can you talk a little bit about what are the core criteria you look at, and also what range of scholarships can people get, and what's the big criteria that you look for?
Sure. So there are a number of criteria with the scholarships. One of them is merit. So we will look at your education, your GPA. So how well did you do in school? Did you do a bachelor's? Did you do a master's as well? We look through your whole application, quite honestly. We'll look at your resume, your work experience. We'll understand whether or not you've been involved in the community, done volunteer work. Because some of the scholarships have different criteria. Some are have the GPA requirement as well as a community leadership aspect to them. And you can find a lot of information about our scholarships on our website. There's a description for each of the scholarships. As well, we have another pool of money that we look to be just merit-based. We also assess for need as well. So if you are looking for, financial assistance, it's always good to sort of identify that in your application process. And scholarships range from a few $1,000s up to the full cost of the program. So most of them are, a lot of them are $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, but definitely with the MBA, there can be a lot a higher value as well.
Great, thank you for that. There's one question in particular, and there's a few folks with a CFA background, so I want to take this question as well. And Susan, maybe this one is between you and Hollis. So Ashkan says, I'm a candidate for CFA level 2. Since I was already studying for CFA level 1, I got really interested in derivatives and alternatives, and also have other interests, but cannot decide which subject is the best path for me. Is there something I should do to decide my journey forward, and what's your advice?
So I would start by taking a look at the website and the course descriptions. There is a description with each of the courses in the curriculum for all of the programs. So just to really get an understanding of what the curriculum is all about, and then talk to people at the school, alumni. You go on LinkedIn. We can connect you with individuals. So you really need to do a bit of homework to help you decide.
And
Hollis?
Sorry, Hollis, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just add to that, when you're in the program, avail yourself of the various networking opportunities that are presented through the CCD. So, a great example, just a couple Fridays ago, we hosted our annual Day on Bay event, which is obviously targeted broadly at students with an interest in finance. But it's sort of a half a day of panels and then a half a day of, or a sort of a networking 2-hour luncheon. And, we had folks there, many of whom are alum on the industry guest side, but over 100 industry guests, including, the director of group risk management, commercial markets at RBC. We had the executive director of investment banking for CIBC Capital Markets, product managers of digital strategy at TD. So really just a whole host of industry guests across a broad range of sort of functions or areas within the overall umbrella of finance. So that's just one example, but yeah, very much to Susan's point, you have to do your research, whether that's researching the courses, whether that's reaching out to alum, whether that's connecting with industry individuals at events like this. We are putting the opportunities in front of students, and I think the onus is on the student to take and run with those opportunities.
Great, thank you. Yusuf, I'll bring you the next question at this point. And this is more because there are certain questions around funding, loans that are coming up as well. Let us hear a little bit about your experience. How did you plan your finances when you thought of doing the MF program as well? So how did you plan? Let me repeat the question if you'd like. How did you plan for your finances when you were considering the program itself as well?
My father had saved a bunch of money, so that is why he was able to send me to Canada. Yeah.
That's one way for folks listening in. That's one way to finance your program, which is the family savings and money that the parents would invest in terms of getting you quality education. John, anything different that you'd like to share?
So I financed mine MBA with a loan from, well, some entrance awards and then a loan from RBC, but I'm also maybe not the best position to speak to it because I wound up coming in as a domestic student, as I'm a permanent resident. So I know that's not probably helpful to most of the folks who are looking to travel from abroad.
And I'll just sort of give everyone else that has questions around funding a quick summary before we go to Susan for another question. Susan, the next questions around post-study work visa changes that have come up recently, just to get an overview of that. But I'll quickly, in the meantime, answer just around funding. For everyone else who's thinking about what's the right mix, there isn't a one-size-fit-all. Being very transparent with you guys, most students would look at a mix of a certain percentage being a education loan, a partial scholarship, which may be from the school or from other bodies. Like was mentioned earlier today, by attending today's event, you've all become eligible to apply to the scholarships that Schulich is offering via SEED. So there's over $235,000 of scholarships that you have become eligible to. The link for the same is in the chat function if you're interested to learn more. So there's school scholarships, there's third-party scholarships that you can avail. And then there's family funding or savings that you may have through previous work that you've done as well. So don't look at it as, if you don't get a full scholarship, can I actually go study or not? Think of this as an investment into your future. And that fundamentally pays off within a year or two once you start into the careers segment itself as well. Yes, John, please.
I would actually say to that I completely agree with that last part about viewing it as an investment in yourself and your future opportunities. It may not, even if it doesn't pay off with a huge high-paying job right out of school, I think it does really effectively remove the ceiling on your earnings potential in the Canadian market. So I would highly encourage you to think of it that way. I think you have a lot of opportunity to further yourself and further your income as a result of your studies at Schulich.
Great. We are slightly short on time. So Susan, I'm going to quickly run to you for the next one. There have been a couple of questions about the visa regulation. So if you want to talk about the post-study work visa opportunities that have come up based on recent news.
Sure. So the government is announcing changes to the postgraduate work permit for international students. So 1-year students may be eligible for a 3-year postgraduate work permit upon graduation. There is an application process. However, that's about all I can say. But we do have our licensed international relations experts on our team who guide students through the postgraduate work permit process. So they're here to help you apply to come to Canada study. They're here to help you throughout the process while you're here, and then to get your work permit once you leave.
Fantastic. I'm going to go to one last question for everybody, but in the meantime, Susan, if you'd like to post your email address or LinkedIn into the chat functionality, folks, please feel free to reach out to any of the 4 that are attending today via LinkedIn, or if you're writing to Hollis or Susan via email as well. They're here to help you through this journey to decide what school or program is right for you. Last question while I've got you all, and we're very tight in time, so super short. Hollis, starting with you, that one advice that you would give somebody who's thinking about Schulich, one thing that they should keep in mind when they're deciding a school or a program.
Yeah, I think the thing that you need to keep in mind is this is going to be your home for the next either 1 year or 2 years if you're doing the MBA program. So you need to make sure that it feels like a good fit. And that is sort of taking off my careers hat and just saying in general, the graduate school is about more than just the academics. You're developing a network. There's the social side of things. So as I said earlier, really talk to current and former students to make sure that it feels like a good fit with you.
Fantastic. Susan, I'll come to you next. One tip.
Sorry, busy typing my email into the chat. No. One tip, sorry, what was the question?
One tip that you'd like to give students that are deciding about which school to choose and which program might be right for them. That one quick one.
Do your research. I'm sure I'm repeating what everybody else has said. Do your research. Talk to people.
Great. John, if you'd like to go next.
Yeah, it comes down to knowing what you want to get out of it, and knowing where you want to go after the program so that you make the right decision up front and you're prepared for when you're in the program. Yeah, I think that's really the crux of it.
Great. Yusuf?
The simple answer is network, and network some more. And like apart from that, like when you're giving the interview, I would say just try to understand the business, understand the big picture. When you're interviewing for the role, certainly in like front office jobs, you are not interviewing for the analyst or the associate position. You are interviewing that can you become the next manager or the director. So try to understand what are the roles and responsibilities of the people above you, and try to communicate that you want to reach there, and analyst or the associate position is just the first step. This will give a lot of confidence to the hiring manager. Yeah, that's for me.
Thank you. And I'll add one last tip as well. Be authentic throughout this process. It's something that you're investing the next couple of years for yourself, be it the financial commitment, but also the time and energy that you're putting through this process. So take the time, evaluate, but be authentic about yourself and your choices as well. With that, I know there are more questions still pouring in. Hollis and Susan have both put their email addresses and LinkedIn in the chat function. Please feel free to write to them, and they'll be more than happy to answer questions that we've not been able to take today. For the four of you, thank you so much for taking the time and being here with us today. For all the students that are still here, I hope today's session was useful, and we wish you the best in the journey ahead. Thank you so much for joining in, and looking forward to seeing you all at another event soon. Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to join.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.